Good afternoon, everyone. I am Hans Christian Tumarao, and I will be talking about the uses and gratifications theory by Elihu Katz. So, the UGT, or the uses and gratifications theory, is an approach which studies and explains as to how and why people actively consume media to gratify specific needs. The UGT describes mass communication as it offers an audience-centered approach. This would mean that it focuses more on what do people do with media rather than what do media do to people. So according to Blumler and Katz, the theory presents the media in terms of the gratification of the social and psychological needs of the individual who consume the media. And because the theory has an audience-centered approach, this puts a limit on media in terms of its effect on their audiences because the audiences have more power in terms of controlling over what media they want to choose and how they want the media to affect them. So people consciously and deliberately consume media messages every day for different reasons. It could be because your favorite basketball player just dropped 50 points and everyone online has been talking about it, or a certain political topic got your interest that's been circulating around all social media sites that made you open Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, for instance. Or simply because you just got tired after a long day at work or at school and you just want to watch your favorite drama on TV at the comfort of your couch. And this is what uses and gratifications theory tries to understand, that media and its effects to its audiences aren't necessarily the same for everyone. And the driving mechanism for this theory is need for gratification. What is need for gratification? So the need gratification is the fulfillment of one's needs through the consumption of media. These needs are what motivates people or the audiences to consume a specific media. By understanding the particular needs of media consumers, the reason for their media consumption become clear. Particular media effects or lack of effects can be clarified. For example, if a particular group of people are loyal to their preferred presidential candidate, then the need for them to watch and listen to the opposing candidate's ads would be less. So, what need or needs am I talking about? Well, there are various needs that people seek to gratify when consuming a certain media. These are categorized into five needs. They are the cognitive needs, the affective needs, the personal interrogative needs, the social interrogative needs, and the tension free needs, which I'll be explaining. Cognitive need. The cognitive need is the need of the people to consume media in order to gain information, knowledge, facts, to be educated, and fulfill their intellectual need. One way of gratifying this need is by watching the news on television if you want to know the current affairs of our country or of the world. People also browse the internet as it's faster in order to research about their topic of interest for their research or for their academic papers. Watching documentaries and DIY videos and tutorials gratify this need as well. Here we have the affective needs. So the affective needs includes all kinds of emotion, pleasure, and mood of people which they try to gratify. So basically, affective needs talks about the emotional fulfillment and pleasure which people get through watching TV, movies, drama, or by listening to music. In affective need, people often relate to the emotions being shown by the character of the movie or the drama that they are watching. People also relate with the emotions being portrayed in a song. People get the satisfaction that they seek from this. The personal integrative needs. The personal integrative needs, or the self-esteem need, is where people consume media to reassure their status, gain credibility, and stabilize. So people watch the television or go to different social media platforms to assure themselves that they have a respectably high status in the society. Like for example, people watch advertisements such as clothing ads or jewelry ads, for instance, and buy these products to change their lifestyle and keep up with the current trends that are happening around. The media allows them to do so, and it helps them boost their self esteem. The need to consume media to socialize with family, friends, and relations in society is what we call as the social integrative needs in UGT. These needs are gratified through the use of social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and etc. Other people use media as well to increase their social interactions by getting topics to talk with other people. So the tension-free needs is where people use media to gratify their need to release stress, relax, and escape from the real world. People also use the media to cure their boredom. Like for example, some people tend to relax and release stress when watching ASMR videos on YouTube. Some opens Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, while others prefer to play video games. So Katz proposed the theory's fundamental assumption, which states that the study of how media affect people must take into account of the fact that people deliberately use media for particular purposes. So it indicates that media use is motivated by audience members' own needs and goals, and that active participation in the communication process can promote, limit, or otherwise impact the gratifications and effects of exposure. And this would mean that the audience takes control of what media they want to use and effects they want them to have. Consider this example. Let's say I was watching TV and I got bored because there's nothing good to watch, so I watched the news instead. Watching alongside with me is Sir Derek, who is also watching the news, but for the purpose of gaining valuable information. And although our purposes and the effect of exposure in watching the news on TV aren't exactly the same, however, the satisfaction that we seek which motivated us to watch the news are still being gratified. In my case, it cured my boredom. In Sir Derek's case, it helped him learn new valuable information. This makes the audience to have more power over the media according to uses and grats, because the audience plays a key role in determining how any influence of the media will play out. So uses and gratifications theory is known for its shift from the notion that powerful media messages have the same effects on large audiences. This notion is called as the uniform effects model, or often referred to as the magic bullet or hypodermic needle model, where exposure to media affects everyone in the audience in the same way, which the theory rejects. UGT also rejects the notion that audiences are passive readers or receivers. If we were to apply the uniform effects model to our example earlier, it would assume that the messages or the information that came from the news would have affected me and Sir Derek in the same way. But in uses and gratifications, it is not the case, as the theory assumes that both Sir Derek and I made deliberate choices which resulted in a different patterns of media use with different effects. To me, the media messages from the news was nothing but a sort of distraction to cure my boredom. But to Sir Derek, the media message from the news might be extremely important to him in order to fact-check someone's claim on the internet. So uses and gratifications theory emphasizes more on the personal media choices that consumers of the media make to fulfill different purposes at different times. In UGT, the audiences are seen as active readers or receivers rather than the passive ones, which means that exposure to media does not necessarily affect everyone in the same way. So now, we all know that in uses and grats, it assumes that people have needs that they seek to gratify through the use of media, right? So the deliberate choices that people make in using media are based on the gratification that they seek or look for from those media. So this makes the uses, which pertains to the media use, and gratifications, which pertains to the needs that people look for, become inseparable. So they are linked with one another. So by considering this notion, Katz was really contradicting media theory at the time. So he wrote an essay with Blumler and Gurevich, who are often viewed as the co-creators of the uses and gratifications theory, which states that in the massive communication process, much initiative in linking need gratification and media choice lies with the audience member. This places a strong limitation on theorizing about any form of straight-line effect of media content on attitudes and behavior. So what is this straight-line effect of media? It is a particular effect on behavior that is predicted from the content of media alone, without the consideration of the differences in people who consume that content. So if we consider the straight-line effect of media to our example earlier, it would predict that both Sir Derek and I would have watched the news just because both of us were bored. But in the example, both of us had different needs which we are trying to satisfy when watching the news. So Katz thought that the key to understanding media lied upon what need or needs a person was trying to satisfy when selecting a media message. So here we have the uses and gratifications model. When using media, the audience have their own gratification sought. A gratification sought is defined as the motivations or expressed desires for gratification in the use of media. This could be the motivations that fall under cognitive needs, affective needs, personal integration needs, social integration needs, or detention-free needs. And then the audience would then choose a specific medium of media which they think could obtain their personal perceived gratification of media use. However, according to the study that was conducted by Palmgreen, Wenner, and Rayburn in 1980, we must take note that the gratification that the audience have sought does not immediately correlate with the gratification being obtained. But if the gratifications were obtained or even higher than the gratifications being sought, then there would be a continued use of that specific media with a high level of appreciation, attention, and satisfaction. If not, people would then choose another medium of media until that need is being gratified. Uses and Gratz researchers tried to find a way in uncovering the media that people consume and the reasons behind it. It is done by collecting data through asking people directly and recording their answers. Uses and Gratz researchers compiled several reasons people report to construct a typology of their major reasons why they expose themselves to different media. So Alan Rubin, a communication scholar, proposed a typology of 8 motivations which best accounts the most explanation that people give as to why they watch the television. So people watch the television to pass time, for companionship, to escape, for enjoyment, for social interaction in terms of gathering interesting topics or events on a show that you're watching to start a conversation to someone else who's also watching that show. The next one is for relaxation, for information, and excitement, which can be subdivided into sexual excitement, competitive excitement, and excitement that arises from a suspenseful storyline. Other typology which explains why people use media like the ones on television is by habit. This was discovered by Bradley Greenberg in 1974. Another typology that could be a candidate to Rubin's typology is called Parasocial Relationships. Parasocial relationships is a sense of friendship or emotional attachment that viewers develop from their favorite media personalities. So according to Rubin, parasocial relationships are experienced in different ways, which includes seeking guidance from media persona, seeing media personalities as friends or your loved ones. Like for example, a BTS fan or an ARMY would claim that Jungkook is their husband or Taeyong is their boyfriend. Or imagining being part of your favorite program's social world. Or and the desire to meet media performers or media personalities in person. So the thing is, a parasocial relationship is crucial to researchers of uses and gratifications because it can help predict how media will affect different media consumers in different ways. So this example from the book shows how a parasocial relationships affected different media consumers differently. Like for example, Irvin Magic Johnson, who is a basketball superstar in the 80s who played for the Los Angeles Lakers, announced to the world that he's HIV positive in 1991. So there was a study conducted which compared college students who have had a parasocial relationship with him to college students who have only heard of him, and the results affected them differently. So those who had a parasocial relationship with Magic expressed a concern about HIV among heterosexuals and showed an intention to reduce risky sexual behavior. And those who have only heard of him were not really affected by the news that much. And this is how parasocial relationships affected different people who consume the media differently. So here, we have come to the critiques of uses and gratifications theory. For a good objective theory, the theory must explain the past and present and predicts the future. This has been one criticism of uses and grats, as its major contribution is a descriptive typology and it emphasizes more on description rather than explanation and prediction. Uses and gratifications theory also relies on the people's ability to accurately report their media use. It relies heavily on self-reports, which is based on personal memory. But self-reports and personal memory becomes tricky when it comes to conducting research on uses and grats, as there is a possibility that respondents could imprecisely recall how they behaved when using media. If people could not report the reasons for their media use, then the theory's testability becomes jeopardized. There is also a contradiction between the theory's notion that media choices are deliberate and the habitual use of media. The theory has this notion that people are consciously aware of their media choices and use. However, it contradicts Greenberg's research on uses and grats, where habit could be a factor as to why people would consume media. So therefore, there is a possibility that media consumers are not aware of their media choices and use. So the last one is, uses and gratifications theory does not consider the power of media and its ability to manipulate people, and that the audience are not always active. So that's it for the uses and gratifications theory, guys. Thank you for listening and stay safe.